All right, good evening. Welcome to We Don't Miss, episode 7. If it's your first time tuning in, let me reiterate the purpose of this podcast slash YouTube video. I am here to spread positive vibes and self-love to you. And I use this as a form of therapy for me to reinforce my thought process and my beliefs, and to help all of you out there know that you're not alone in your struggles. And that's what this video is going to be about, is what are other people dealing with relative to what you're dealing with. And this is not made to be a comparison video, because everybody's struggles are unique in their own way to their own life. And I think it's unhealthy to take the approach of, well, I'm not doing that bad because at least I'm not in that person's position. That's not really a healthy way to live, because you have to take inventory and stock of your own life and set your own measures, your own goals, your own pillars of success. And only when you meet your own criteria is when you're really going to become happy with the life that you live. But I do want to mention that something that's been bothering me lately is knowing that there's, just in the US alone, there's 330 million people. And out of all those people, if you're a socialite, you're probably going to know throughout your lifetime, let's say 1,000 people, which is a lot. And out of 1,000 people, only 500 of those are going to be people that you actually have conversations with, that are a little more than, hey, this is what I do for work. I have kids, I have a family, XYZ. So the reason it's bothering me is because whenever I am having an off day, I can look almost anywhere where you see a big group of people, like a grocery store or a gym or school or whatever, and you can always find somebody that is having a day, and you never really know what that person is going through. And that's why it is just so imperative and so important, and brings me a lot of joy to identify people that are having problems and lend a helping hand. I think it's really easy these days to get caught up in your own issues, in your own thought process, and in your own world, and forget that in making yourself try and feel better in your life, not feel so messy, you're always working on your own problems. But it is very, very helpful to you and I to help another individual. There's no greater feeling, I don't think, than, other than overcoming your own struggles, is helping someone overcome theirs. And I think that I think of this in a way of teaching. If you've ever taught anybody anything, which we all have, it doesn't have to be formal instruction in a school. It can just be a skill or a hobby you have that you enjoy, and you run across somebody that has less knowledge than you, and you pass that knowledge on. That feels really good. And similar to teaching, when people say, I thought I had a good idea, or was very knowledgeable on this topic, but I didn't become more knowledgeable until I actually had to teach it, because that's when you have to distill that information down into a manner and present it that can be absorbed by other people with different thought processes. So where does this come into helping you overcome your struggles? Well, the first part is identifying, and that's identifying that you're not the only one out there. And the only one out there with problems. And you should take some solace in that, because life is a grind. Life is a struggle. We're all juggling a million things. And I was just talking to a friend of mine who's an ER doctor. So obviously very knowledgeable on the human body and the brain. And we were just talking about cognitive development. And you have to realize that our bodies and our brains have not adapted yet to the amount of input that is being thrown at us on a daily basis through media, through screen time, through social media. Um, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not demonizing it. I'm just saying that access to information, one would think that because we have access to all the information that's literally ever existed, that we'd all be smarter and therefore more happy and more content. But we find ourselves in a position where we're more confused and we have more anxiety over issues. And I think that anxiety doesn't necessarily come from the issues themselves. I think that the anxiety comes from overstimulus. We being overstimulated, we are not yet developed from 500 years ago to where, or 1,000 years ago, to where we lived in more of a hunter gatherer, tribal, kill or be killed life, where there wasn't time to worry about so many issues that aren't related to you or aren't even close to home. Like if you find yourself pondering about the war in Ukraine, or the war in Israel right now, or you're thinking about Iraq or Afghanistan over the last 20 years, these are really complex issues. And 500 years ago, before the advent of communication, long range communication, such as radio, cell phone, TV, and things like that, it wouldn't be a blip on your radar, because you would have no idea that that stuff is going on. So now we're in a world where there's so much going on, including your own personal stuff, that it's taking up a lot of bandwidth that I don't think our brain, and to my friend's point, who's a doctor, said that our brain is still trying to evolve, is still evolving, and will take hundreds, if not thousands of years to process well, because we can process the information. We can definitely take it in and understand it. But it's how do we deal with that? And I think that's an issue that I run into and you run into. And we see all the stats about childhood anxiety and depression and suicide and the amount of kids that are on medication these days. And I think that's because we are inundated with too much information. And that information can make your problems seem worse than they are, instead of taking a simple approach of identifying the issue, analyzing the problem, coming up with a solution, solving it, and moving on to the next one. We find ourselves in a perpetual state of problem solving on issues that seem to have no end. And that is the way that the news runs, because if problems had a start and an end, the news would be very simple. It'd probably start something like, hey, there was this problem last week or last month. Some people figured it out. The problem worked itself out, and now everything's fine. On to the next story. Well, that's not really going to sell, right? Because unfortunately, what's selling right now is trauma. And I would have to say, from a non-clinical point of view, because I'm not a professional in this area, but I did recently read an article that said that we're getting addicted to trauma. That everything is about trauma that started in your childhood, trauma that's being caused by toxic leadership in your workplace, relationship trauma, personal trauma, body image, body dysmorphia, eating habit trauma. Everything's trauma this, trauma that. And I don't know about you guys, but I am just getting worn out. I'm tired of just turning on the radio and turning on the news, and everything is chaos and trauma and turmoil. And so that's why I'm making this video, because I believe the solution to not getting caught up in all this trauma is developing a daily routine to stack wins, to reinforce a positive image of yourself, which starts with making a plan for the day to do things that, even if the day is shit, you can look back on and say, at least I got a workout in. At least I was the best parent I could be. I was the best spouse, the best partner I could be. And I set goals, and I'm functioning in a way that I'm going to achieve and reach those goals. But people aren't doing that. What people are doing is just floating through the world right now, just floating, hoping and wishing and praying that they one day wake up and have an Instagram lifestyle. And that's not the way it works. So we have too much time to think. And I want to close with this. If you are having a day, which we all have a day, here's an easy way to recalibrate. 1, eat healthy and go to the gym. But number 2, really take stock of the things that you have. If you're watching this video, that means you have a phone or a computer. That's awesome. Not everybody has a phone or computer. If you have a job that you don't like or that you're struggling with, guess what? You have a job. Not everybody has a job. If you got to that job in a vehicle, great. Not everybody has a vehicle. If you have a roof over your head tonight and your stomach is full because you had a meal, not everybody has a roof over their head, and not everybody has a full stomach. And I know that I'm dumbing it down and making this a little cliche, like, oh, be happy for every little single thing that you have. But we're really getting to a point in the world with wealth disparity where there are the haves and the have-nots. And if you are unable to take stock and just appreciate the things that you have, such as waking up in the morning and being healthy and being able to go to the gym, being able to make food choices because you have some money and you have different things in your fridge or your pantry, you are already winning so much more than you even know. I'm currently getting my MBA from Denver University, which is a great program, and we're deciding where the class is going to go for our international trip next year. And one of the presentations was on South Africa, because we're split up into groups and we have to present all the different country options and why we should go from an economic point of view and what we're going to learn. And one of the most valuable things that one of the students said, who's military like me, that was well traveled and said it better than I could have, she wanted to go to the worst place economically, because we had places, like in Europe that are well established, in the EU, like and Southeast Asia, such as Singapore. And she wanted to go to South Africa because she told the class, in order to become great at business and to become a great leader and just a well-rounded person, you need to go someplace where they live a totally different lifestyle than you. And the portion of South Africa that they featured had a 65% poverty rate, massive corruption, massive crime, a disjointed government system. And I think that that's what we're missing. A lot of us are missing in our mental right now, is not realizing that I'm not trying to downplay the problems you have. Your problems are your problems, and they're very serious, and you should take them serious, and I do, and they need to be dealt with. However, you can reset and recalibrate your frame of mind when looking at your problems when you go someplace and they live in tin or wooden stick huts and have to walk miles and miles every day just for fresh water and go for days on end without eating while rogue militia are driving around the countryside in trucks with 50 cows mounted on top of them, willing to kill anybody that doesn't fall in line with the militia's narrative. That's a scary, scary environment to live in. And a lot of the world is living in that environment right now. So this is just a friendly reminder to myself and to you that if you're in the US right now listening to this, our country has a lot of work to do and always will. But it's an amazing place to live. We have tons of opportunity. And if you find yourself struggling, we are in a position to where struggles that are in your mental really don't have to do. Now, there's some that are directly correlated with finance. If you're ever having trouble paying your bills, then yeah, positive attitude is not going to make money grow on a tree. But a lot of issues that aren't monetary related, such as relationship problems, work problems, self-image problems, motivation, ego, self-esteem, etc. These are all problems that can be fixed without money. And they're all problems that can be fixed with PMA, positive mental attitude. And I want you to find a way to get there. And I'm trying to provide solutions in this video. So I think the best way to get there is to change your routine. It's as simple as that. It's like when a team is not winning in sports, what do? They toss out the playbook and they make a new one. They keep the good, they get rid of the old, develop a new playbook, and then they start winning games. And that's what you're doing right now. If you were just day after day after day, just like, why is the struggle so hard? It's because you're not changing anything. You're not identifying the problem. You're not identifying what's wrong in your routine. You're not making any changes. And to sound cliche again, that's what they say insanity is, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So it's time to change. Go back to the drawing board and make simple changes that anybody can make that, once again, don't cost any money. Fix your sleep. Go to sleep at the same time every night. Wake up at the same time every morning. Instead of jumping on your phone in the morning, get a light workout in. It doesn't even have to be a workout. Go walk your dog. I have a dog. I walk a mile every morning before the sun comes up with my dog. It makes me feel so refreshed in so many ways. It gets my body moving. It gets my energy moving. It gets my digestive system flowing. I drink a big cup of water. Watching my dog sniff and jump around and be happy makes me happy. So it's boosting up my mental. And so by the time I wake up my kids in the morning, it's not like, rush, 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 let's go to school. Bob, eat your breakfast. We got to comb your hair. Da, 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 da. It's like, no, I'm already awake. I've already taken the dog out. I've fed the dog. I've made the kids breakfast. I've made their lunch. So all I have to do in the morning is enjoy their time. And that's not how I started. First couple of years of having kids, I was the rush, rush, rush guy. And I was like, why am I always so stressed? It's because my morning started off. The first hour of my morning was absolute stress and chaos. And so I fixed that. And when I drop my kids off at school now and we're early, it just feels great and I can roll right into my day. So small changes, fixing your sleep, obviously your nutrition, but the big thing is your mental attitude. How are you talking to yourself? How are you steering yourself, your own image? Are you saying negative things to yourself like, I'm never going to lose this extra 10 pounds. I'm never going to be in shape again. I'm getting older, man. I'm in my 40s. Like, it's all downhill from here. You say these things that are funny and cliche, and you don't realize that the words that you're speaking, in order to speak those words, your brain has to think it. And if your brain is thinking that and your words are now coming out of your mouth and you're hearing it, you start to reinforce that negative self-image. So look, guys and girls, this is really simple. Stop being mean to yourself. We all have wins that we've had when we've had challenges. So start saying stuff like that. You literally have to think about it. You can't just let your mind be on autopilot because it's just going to go crazy. At least mine does. When you start thinking about these negative experiences and negative things going on in your life, even if you have to fake it, here's an experiment. Fake it and see what happens. I guarantee it's going to work. Just start saying stuff like, this is temporary. I'm going to get through this problem. I've had problems before. My mind is sharp. I'm tough as nails. I'm healthy. I'm going to make it through this. Got an extra 5 pounds. Just got to change my diet. I'm going to make a new grocery list, and the pounds will come off. I'm going to just make some smart decisions. The job that I have right now, I'm not locked in this job forever. I can leave whenever I want. And when I leave, I'm going to leave that job with the great experiences that I had, and I'm going to get another job and use those experiences to get a promotion and get a raise. Just all this positive stuff. Your tongue is your rudder. You know, the analogy that I'm going to steal from somebody else that I listened to was that you have a massive sailboat or a massive ship. And on that ship, it can be 50, 60, 70, 100 feet long. The rudder steering that sailboat is a fraction of the size. It's like less than a third, less than a quarter of the size. It's small. So you have this huge boat with a small rudder that's so crucial underneath, and you turn that rudder, and it takes a while for the big ship to move, but that small little rudder turns the ship. Your tongue is your rudder. So if all you're doing is speaking negativity, that ship is just going to sail straight into the abyss, straight into chaos. But if you use that small rudder and start making positive corrections, meaning telling yourself positive things, your life is going to start to turn in a better direction, and that ship is going to sail off into the sunset. See you next time.